My name is Vianney Mpungurujja, Manager Public Affairs at Uganda Civil Aviation Authority. At UCAA and Entebbe International Airport in particular, we observe the standard operating procedures in light of the current COVID-19 pandemic. And as part of those SOPs, we emphasize sanitization at the various points within the head office and terminal building. We also emphasize wearing of face masks at all times, as well as social distancing, among others. But for the purpose of this interview, and in order for you to hear me audibly, I request that you permit me to remove this face mask so that you can get me clearly. The journey of Uganda Civil Aviation Authority and air transport services in Uganda started way back in the early 20s. As early as 1929, we used to receive mail in Uganda as part of the Wilson Airways mail delivery network. That mail was delivered by flying boats that were coming in from Wilson Airport in Nairobi and landing at Port Bell, Luzira, on the shores of Lake Victoria. That was in 1929. Later on, the Directorate of Civil Aviation was established in 1946 as a government department under one of the government ministries. Following efforts by those in that directorate, Entebbe International Airport was constructed starting in 1947, and it was completed in 1952, where it was commissioned by Queen Elizabeth of England in 1952. We had air operations since then until 1991, when Uganda Civil Aviation Authority was established following an act of parliament that led to establishment of UCAA to guide and oversee air transport operations in Uganda. The rationale for establishment of UCAA was to ensure that there was a regulator to oversee operations by providing advice to government in line with the International Civil Aviation Organization requirements for a regulatory authority that is independent but under government. We were set up to, among others, advise government, license air operators and aviation crew. The authority was also set up to oversee air navigation services, including search and rescue, in the unfortunate event of any crash anywhere within the Uganda's airspace. The authority is also responsible for ensuring safety of passenger operations by overseeing activities such as firefighting as well as marine. And in that line, the authority has a fully-fledged department that has marine boats and fire equipment which is used to put down any fire or undertake search and rescue on the lake in the unfortunate event of an aircraft ditching into the lake. The other responsibility, which is a major function of the authority, is to oversee airports in the country. And among them is Entebbe International Airport. So running and operating Entebbe International Airport is the responsibility of UCAA, as well as all the other 13 aerodromes spread across the country. And these include aerodromes at Arua, Gulu, Soroti, Pakuba, Tororo, Mbarara, Masindi, Lira, and others. When UCAA was being established in 1991, the very first managing director was Mr. Ambrose Akandonda, and he was deputized by Dr. Rama Makuza. Those steered the authority from the very beginning in 1991 until the first managing director, Mr. Akandonda, retired sometime in the late 2000s and handed over to his deputy, who was then Dr. Rama Makuza, who also did his part until he retired and handed over to Professor David Kakuba, who also served the authority and retired early this year, and handed over to the current acting director general, who is Mr. Fred Bamwesige, who is steering the authority to date. Now, in the beginning, we had very low traffic at Entebbe International Airport. In 1991, for instance, we handled about 118,000 international passengers in and out of Entebbe International Airport. When you compare that to 2019, when we handled 1.98 million passengers international, it shows that we have come a long way. But prior to 2019, in 2018, we had handled 1.84 million passengers, and in 2017, the airport handled 1.65 million international passengers. When it comes to cargo, in 1991, at the establishment of UCAA, the airport handled just about 6,600 metric tons of cargo. But in 2019, Entebbe International Airport handled 62,000 metric tons of cargo. That is a sign that there has been tremendous growth from the time of establishment of UCAA in 1991 to date. Next year, the authority will be celebrating 30 years of existence. But in those 30 years, a lot of things have been done. And among them, we have seen upgrade of aeronautical infrastructure to the facilities that we have now. Prior to Uganda's hosting of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in 2007, a number of facilities at Entebbe International Airport were upgraded. Among them, we put up an aircraft parking apron, which is currently referred to as Aircraft Parking Apron 4, that could accommodate about 60 medium-sized aircraft. And those were accommodated when Uganda hosted CHOGM in 2007. Besides that aircraft parking apron, we also put up a new VVIP facility. That is the very, very important persons facility where heads of government are received and where the head of state passes and interacts with his guests. That facility is located at the old airport and it is in operation. We also put up aero bridges, 2 of them that we did not have before, but were now put up as part of the infrastructure upgrade in 2007. And we have plans to increase on them to add 3 more aero bridges as part of the future plans. We have since added more infrastructure. The authority developed a National Civil Aviation Master Plan, which was covering a period of 20 years, from 2014. Now, according to that master plan, it put in place, it looked at where we were coming from, where we are, and where we are going. So the master plan put in place activities that are to support the growing traffic figures. And among these, there were projections for infrastructure at Entebbe, but there were also projections for infrastructure at upcountry aerodromes. For instance, airfields like Arua, Gulu, and Kasese are, according to that master plan, planned for upgrade to international status. As part of that journey, a number of things have already been undertaken at those airfields. In relation to Arua, Gulu, and Kasese, for instance, we have already developed detailed engineering designs and master plans specific for development and upgrade of those specific airports to international status. That is already in place. The other thing that we have done at Arua and Kasese is acquisition of land in the vicinity of those airfields. And at Arua, for instance, we have acquired about 73 hectares of land and compensated project-affected people in the vicinity to the tune of over 6 billion Uganda shillings. The same has been done in Kasese, where we have also acquired land in the vicinity of the airfield as part of the plans for future upgrade, which is subject to availability of funding. Now, besides the upcountry aerodromes, we have Entebbe International Airport, where we have a project for upgrade and expansion of Entebbe International Airport, which commenced in 2016 and was commissioned by His Excellency the President. It was a 5-year project. The first phase covers 5 years from 2016 to 2021, and that project is moving on very smoothly. This project is big, so it was phased. The second phase will commence for another 5 years after 2021. As part of the first phase of that project, we borrowed money from Exim Bank of China to the tune of $200 million US. And those funds are being used to put up a new cargo center with capacity to handle 100,000 metric tons of cargo per year. Currently, we've already noted that last year we handled 62,000 metric tons of cargo, which is a sign that we already exceeding the current capacity of the facilities that we have in place. But the work for a new cargo center is in very advanced stages and is expected to be completed at the end of this year. That cargo center, besides having capacity to handle 100,000 metric tons of cargo, is being constructed in such a way that there is room for further expansion. If the need arises after we have reached the 100,000 capacity a year, there are mechanisms in place to increase that capacity to 150,000 metric tons. So the access road to the new cargo center has already been completed, tarmac, as well as the connecting road from the new cargo center to the airside has also been completed. We have also worked on the aircraft parking apron for cargo aircraft at the new cargo center, and we have also worked on the taxiways connecting from the runway to the new cargo facilities. Still, as part of that project for upgrade and expansion of the Entebbe International Airport, we have worked on the 2 runways. Entebbe has 2 runways. The first and shorter one is runway 1230, which is about 2.4 kilometers. That runway has been completely resurfaced with new tarmac and it is complete as part of that project. The second runway, 1735, is longer and it is 3.6 kilometers. It has also been completely resurfaced with an overlay and it has also been completed. We took advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown to be able to undertake work on the main runway. Previously, it was very difficult to undertake work on the runway. We asked air operators, the few that were landing and taking off, to land at night. So we used the window from 9 a.m. in the morning to 5 p.m. in the evening to be able to undertake works on the runway while operators were landing at night, and that helped because now we're able to complete those works which was not possible previously. We have undertaken works on an aircraft parking apron for commercial passenger aircraft. That work is ongoing. We have also had another parking undertaken at the VVIP, which is aircraft parking apron 2, has also been completed at the VVIP facility. There is also aircraft parking apron 4, which was put up during CHOGM, has already been renovated, and that work too has progressed quite a lot. In terms of what we expect at the end of the first 5 years of the upgrade and expansion, we intend to increase on the terminal building capacity. At the moment, we have a maximum capacity of 2 million passengers a year. At the end of the first 5 years, at the end of 2021, it is envisaged that we shall have terminal building capacity of over 3.5 million passengers a year. And this will come after we have also completed a new passenger terminal building whose work has not yet been started. And that work for a new passenger terminal, which will connect to the current passenger terminal, is part of the upgrade and expansion works. As soon as the cargo center, whose works are ongoing, is completed, the plan is to raise down the current cargo terminal facilities that we have at Entebbe International Airport, which are fairly dilapidated. They will be brought down so that cargo operations are shifted and relocated from where they are right now to the new cargo terminal facilities. Now that place where we were having cargo operations at the moment is where we intend to build a new passenger terminal, connecting it to the current terminal, and that is part of what will help us to attain the 3.5 million passenger handling capacity per year.
The Uganda Coffee Development Authority, UCDA, is mandated to oversee the coffee subsector.
Our office is in Rugogo, and it houses the lab which analyzes all the export coffees before they are dispatched.
They do quality control management of coffee production, marketing in Uganda and on the international scene.
Buyers abroad, if they cannot taste the coffee, then often they may make a wrong decision when buying.
Before us here, is a sample roaster, which we use for roasting the coffee samples for export.
So the exporter has to apply for inspection at UCDA offices. We have to check that the exporter is licensed, and they have to be licensed by UCDA before they can carry out any export.
Join us for the talks and trainings about coffee on Mondays on UBC TV.
Double data. Airtel introduces double data, the biggest deal ever on smartphones in Uganda. Buy a smartphone, 3G or 4G, and get 100% data bonus from Airtel. Airtel is giving you 100% bonus data on all weekly and monthly bundles for every new smartphone connected to Airtel for the first 3 months. Dial *175*9# to enjoy double data. Double data, double data. Oh. Airtel, the smartphone network, regulated by Uganda Communications Commission.
The Electoral Commission informs stakeholders that the period for campaigns is as follows. Presidential and parliamentary elections, 9th November 2020 to 12th January 2021. City, district local government councils elections, Lord Mayor, mayors, chairpersons and councillors, 9th November 2020 to 18th January 2021. Municipality, city division chairpersons and councillors elections, 9th November 2020 to 23rd January 2021. Sub-county, town, municipal division chairpersons and councillors elections, 9th November 2020 to 1st February 2021. Campaigns will be conducted from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Candidates are reminded to stick to their campaign programs as submitted to the Commission. Voters are encouraged to listen to the candidates' manifestos in order to make informed decisions. While conducting campaign meetings, you should wear face masks, wash your hands and observe social distancing to limit the spread of COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the Electoral Commission.
Besides that project that is externally funded, we also have a number of other projects that are internally funded, which are ongoing and some have been completed. For instance, we at the moment have ongoing works for expansion of the passenger terminal building at Entebbe International Airport. That project is undertaken by Sayani Brothers Uganda Limited, and we expect that by 30th December 2020, we shall have completed a substantial part of that project, where we shall now open up the departure and arrival area of that project so that it is used by passengers. Work will continue for the other floors, which are the concession blocks where airlines and other concessionaires will be renting premises. But we shall at least have a substantial part of that project available to us to facilitate passenger operations. So that is ongoing. We have also undertaken a lot of other works. For instance, we expanded the long-term car parking, and that project was completed a few years ago. We now are able to park at least 460 more cars in the long-term car parking, where people come, park their vehicles and travel, then come back after a couple of days, and that is helpful. Besides the long-term car parking, there is another car park that has just been completed, which is mainly used for all the staff at the airport, so that they relieve more space for parking of passengers in the other areas that are closer to the terminal building. Besides infrastructure, we have also had many other projects that have helped us to improve passenger facilitation and services to the industry. For instance, at the air navigation side, we have automated facilities, and pilots are now able to file flight plans using any web-enabled device from anywhere in the world without having to physically come and file the flight plans or send them manually using fax and other gadgets. So we automated air navigation services to enable automation of flight plans. We have also automated a number of other facilities at the control tower, where we have a new radar that was upgraded to take us for another 20 years. There is also another project which was funded by the government of South Korea, that is Korea International Cooperation Agency, which gave us a grant worth 9.5 million US dollars. And as part of that grant, it involved automation of facilities. It is giving us a computerized maintenance management system where we shall be able to sit down on a computer, and in case of any problem anywhere at the airport, someone can just sit down on a computer, and by a click of a mouse, you are able to tell that, for instance, if runway lights have gone off, you are able to tell where the fault is coming from by clicking a mouse on a computer. And that computerized maintenance management system is giving us that at Entebbe International Airport. Still, as part of that project for KOICA, we have installed a new terminal operations control center at Entebbe International Airport, whereby there are computers in a room and CCTVs that operations officers can sit in one room and see everything at the airport and within its vicinity. They are able to monitor everything that is going on at Entebbe International Airport, and that is coming as part of that project for automation of facilities at Entebbe International Airport. Besides infrastructure, several other things have been done at Entebbe International Airport to enhance passenger facilitation. For instance, we undergo audits by the International Civil Aviation Organization, which is ICAO. They audit us regularly, and they last audited us in 2017, and that was as part of the Universal Security Audit Program. Uganda scored very highly in that USAP audit. We registered a score of 81.8%, which was well above the global average score of 72%. And as part of that excellent score in that Universal Security Audit Program, Uganda was invited to the ICAO headquarters in Montreal late last year, and we were represented by our then Minister of Works and Transport, who was Honorable Agure Bajire then, and he received an award on behalf of Uganda, which was the Aviation Security Award of Excellence. It was the ICAO President's Aviation Security Award in recognition of our excellent performance in the Universal Security Audit Program. Any state that scores poorly in such audits, they stand a risk of getting what they call in the aviation industry a significant security concern or significant safety concern. In case a significant security concern is slapped onto your country, it means that air operators who are flying to your country are doing so at their own risk. In January, we normally have been getting about 150,000 passengers a month, and that's what we had in January this year. In February, the number slightly reduced to 140,000, but in March, it totally dwindled to 83,000 passengers, partly because passenger operations in Uganda were suspended on 22nd March 2020, and they were only lifted on 1st October 2020. So during that period, the aviation industry in Uganda suffered quite a lot. During that time, we only had cargo operations, emergency operations, mainly for the UN, relief, and evacuation and repatriation flights. But now, operations resumed on 1st October, and the numbers are starting to pick up slowly. In the first 3 months of resumption of passenger operations, we have had limited operations, and this was in agreement with all the air operators. We sat down with them and agreed that in order to observe the necessary social distancing and the required SOPs, let us have limited operations in the first 3 months, October to December, where we are having an average of 1 flight per airline per day, except Uganda Airlines, which has many more flights per day. However, after the first month, we have since moved away from that and increased on the number of flights for some airlines like Ethiopian and Kenya Airways. Any aircraft that comes in after disembarking passengers, they disinfect the aircraft and all the surfaces before other passengers board to take off. But besides that, there is also temperature screening at all points. As you enter the airport, right from the gate, your temperature is measured. When you access the terminal building, the departure, we have installed a thermal scanner that is modern, that can detect your temperature as long as you're within a radius of 30 meters. That is not only on departure, but it's also deployed on arrivals and in the VIP and at the VVIP. So that technology has helped us to facilitate people quickly, and it is partly because of that technology that Uganda was able to detect the very first cases of COVID-19. In conclusion, we are already bracing for that busy Christmas period where we continue to expect many more Ugandans to return home and others to visit other countries. For those coming into the country, I need to emphasize that the requirement is for a negative COVID-19 PCR test undertaken within 72 hours before boarding aircraft leaving country of origin to Uganda. Previously, some passengers and airports elsewhere had misinterpreted this SOP to imply that the 72 hours include the hours of transit. The 72 hours does not include the time you spend in transit, as long as you do not get out of the terminal building of the other country where you are passing. So the 72 hours are counted from the time the laboratory reads the result in the country where you have undertaken it to the time you board aircraft coming to Uganda. Similarly, on departure, we have a requirement for a negative COVID-19 PCR test, and on departure, we emphasize the requirement for the country where you're going. However, there are countries that have not indicated hours or that requirement, like Tanzania. If you're going to such a country that has not indicated the number of hours for the PCR tests or the PCR test requirement, then at Entebbe International Airport, we look at 120 hours validity of the PCR test from the time of the laboratory reading the result and the time you embark on that flight from the airport. In the unfortunate event that you arrive at Entebbe without a PCR test certificate, if you are Ugandan, we then isolate you. Our health teams will isolate you from the others, take you for a test, and keep you in quarantine until the results are out. But otherwise, there is no quarantine on arrival as long as you come in with a negative PCR test certificate. So I would like to welcome all those coming back to Uganda for Christmas and those who intend to travel out during this time. Operations are going on very smoothly. And I want to give special thanks to UBC for giving us the opportunity to speak to Ugandans and clarify these issues. And I want to thank you viewers for giving me time to listen to this as we interact with you continually. And many special thanks to HE the President for giving us the platform, a conducive environment that has been created by the NRM government for us to be able to undertake all these things in a peaceful and harmonious environment.